We'll see exactly where that goes, if there is any misinterpretations there, or if there's more of a cover-up that was taking place to essentially spy on people who had no actual investigations against them.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by Justice Department reporter Kaelan Deese. And Kaelan, the Epstein Files Transparency Act passed Congress. President Trump signed it. What's the latest with the Epstein Files?
So we are waiting on a release that's going to happen, at least we know by December 19th, according to the way that the statute is written. But that release could come sooner, as we've seen courts across three different jurisdictions, well, two different jurisdictions, but three different cases, deciding when they're going to perhaps decide that grand jury filings from the Epstein Florida case, his criminal case in New York, and Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal case, if those files can be released. And so far there hasn't been a significant amount of pushback from outside parties for the release of the files. It seems that the victims of Epstein are especially interested in making sure that there's nothing that is left out, especially because there's the threat that maybe not all these files could be released. We saw a little update about that aspect of it this week whenever Ghislaine Maxwell gave a notice to the docket saying that she doesn't object to the release of the grand jury materials, but she sort of cautioned, or her attorney threw out this information that if those materials are released, it could implicate her upcoming habeas petition, which is essentially her last-ditch effort to try to get a retrial in her 2019 sex trafficking case. So it's a little bit of one of those word games that lawyers like to play, where they say, we don't object to this, but here's some food for thought that this could implicate a forthcoming habeas petition for Maxwell. So that's something that the judge in that case will consider, and it's one of those elements that, as we expect more Epstein files to be released, that is something that could throw a bit of a wrench if a judge were to say, not so fast, maybe we're going to keep these behind closed doors for now until this defendant's appeals are up, essentially.
So the Trump administration has really been battling in the courts over its immigration agenda, and a lot of judges have ruled against various deportations and other things that the president wants to do in this area. What are some of the latest things that have happened?
Yeah, so this week there was another immigration court setback, if you will, that took place in Washington, D.C. Judge Beryl Howell, who is one of these judges that is not a stranger to getting some ire from the administration. Similar to Judge Boasberg, Beryl Howell has had a history of ruling against this administration in several different high-profile cases, and she made one of these rulings this week that significantly curtailed the ability of the DHS to make these so-called warrantless arrests. Basically, essentially, part of this DC crime crackdown surge that's been happening since August, around 40% of the law enforcement actions have pertained to illegal immigrants, and this judge is making this very strange sort of slicing or cutting it down the middle, saying it's not a criminal offense to be illegal in the country, is what the judge is saying. And the administration's responding back, saying that her ruling doesn't have necessarily the teeth that they think that would stymie completely halting warrantless arrests. The judge has said that she wants to have a series of documentation about each warrantless arrest that they provide to the court. So essentially, the judge is making this ruling that is trying to impair the administration, but DHS has responded back to us, telling us that they're going to continue doing warrantless arrests where they can, and I'm sure that any compliance with this judge is going to be met, as they've done in other cases where there's these requirements for documentation and things of that sort.
So Jack Smith is back in the news, and of course the very seasonally appropriate Arctic frost. What's the latest there?
Yeah, so it's getting cold up in the Capitol Hill with the Arctic
Smith
frost.
Is nipping at our nose.
Yes, indeed, and he's making the very valid, sort of giving this indication that he's going to be appearing for a deposition. Although it seems like he's trying to get this more of a into a transcribed interview phase rather than a deposition where maybe he has some problems invoking his Fifth Amendment privileges,
Sure.
especially the fact that the Justice Department has signaled it has no restraints that they want to put on this closed-door hearing with House Committee with Jim Jordan leads.
Right.
And essentially the reason why they want to do this is because if they had an open hearing, as Jack Smith wanted, you would have sort of the time issues where lawmakers only get 5 minutes to ask questions, and then there's the rebuttal and all this back and forth. The lawmakers want to be able to have Smith sitting in this chair for hours so they can continue to ask him, rounds of questions and things of that sort. Similar to what we saw earlier this year, whenever we saw the James Comer Committee on House Oversight looking into Biden's auto pen. They brought on all those former Biden administration officials and spoke to them, for the entire day. So they want to keep Smith in that seat for, I would say, reasonably 4 or 5 hours, maybe longer, so they can try to figure out, what took place with getting this Arctic frost investigation that surveilled hundreds of different people, organizations, and lawmakers that were just connected to Trump, people who supported Trump. Jack Smith says that he wants to clear up any misinterpretations about what the Arctic frost probe was. We'll see exactly where that goes, if there is any misinterpretations there, or if there's more of a cover-up that was taking place to essentially spy on people who had no actual investigations against them.
Arctic frost and the hot seat. Thank you, Kaelan.
Thank you.
You can read Kaelan and the rest of our investigations team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.